Well, 200, episode 200. After so many times, 6 years later, etc., we've hit our 200th episode. Kind of feels funny having, I knew that we would eventually get to that, and I'm sure we'll have plenty more milestones in the future. But I guess something around, getting to 200 is kind of a special thing for this humble little podcast that we're doing here.
Wow, Ben, you're obviously a brave man if you ever thought we'd get to 200. I live week by week here, but fantastic achievement. Thank you very much for steering us this far.
And to all of you for watching and putting up with our ramblings every week or so. The interesting thing, we started a little over 6 years ago. I think it was September 2014. I rewatched our very first episode a little earlier, and we're going to do like a bit of a bookend is not the right term because we're not ending, but just doing a circle back to what we discussed in that very first episode and some of the topics we're talking about today. But just as an initial thing, I'm just going to share some photos now where, the first photo is essentially the ridge. That was the setup that I took that photo on that first episode. That was the setup, and the second photo that you'll see is today's setup that we're doing for the 200th episode. And what really what I loved about that photo from six plus years ago was that I thought that we'd started using the iPhone 6 by that point, but it's very clear that we were on the iPhone 5, and the fact that it was producing 1080p video just fine way back then, no problems at all. And it was just it was a different time, but if you actually look carefully at both photos, like essentially what my setup here hasn't really changed. And for the purposes of what we're doing, I've got the 12 Pro Max recording me at the moment in bloody 10-bit Dolby Vision HDR, 4K, 60 frames per second. But it's not something, it's great that those improvements are made, but, for the purposes of this, I guess it's sort of overkill. But it's good that the technology has progressed that way, but it's also made things so much easier to sort of produce along the way.
Well, it just goes to show, I think how far we've come, and very often, incrementally with every new release of a phone, we think we haven't really made that many or that much of an advance, but it's quite clear now. We could shoot in 4K now if we wanted, and beam it live. So, which are all things that we couldn't even have done when this, SciTech Culture podcast started. So, who knows where we'll be in another 200 eps.